white. Last time I did a live stream where I base coated everything and dry brushed everything up from through grays and to white. And today we start with Blood Angels Red, the contrast paint, to get the wing membranes painted up. I really enjoy this red. It's one of my favorite contrast paints as it's really dark and it covers very well. I have tried using speed paints instead of contrast paints, as I usually prefer those, but I've yet to find a shade of red that I like as much as this one. So continuing with the next Vorac, and of course the extra wings. As you can see, I'm using magnets as also paint holders. It works really well, as everything is magnetized anyway. You can just use a roll of magnets to hold. Make things a little easier, but you won't always need them. And then we move on to the smaller dudes, the Strions. These are very simple. I mean, the wing membranes are quite small, so quite easy to get in. Heads are really cool. I'm using 2 heads that I've printed myself and 2 from Steamforged. Really, as they all have the muzzled head. Really enjoying the variation that this brings, all the 3D printing. Warmachine 3D has really stepped up and become a really great thing for us hobbyists. Moving on to the Strion Riders, also not very much wing membrane there, mostly armor on these guys, but a little. And then we move on to my little mix. We use Tyrian Navy mixed with speed paint medium. This is Tyrian Navy, like 2 parts Tyrian Navy, 1 part speed paint medium, because Tyrian Navy is very dark. It's very good to use as a black, really, a black highlight color. So if you just do 1 coat of this, it'll look like it's black and highlighted with a bluish tint. But if you mix it out a little, you get a little brighter nuance, and I prefer that for these models. This will be highlighted in the future, but this looks good for now. So moving on to the next Vorac. I'm using 2 of these for now. I only have 2. So for this 100-point army, I have 2 Voracs in each list. As you can see when I'm doing this, I'm not being particularly careful about like smudging or anything going outside the lines. It's not that important because that'll dry and then it'll just sort of seep into the recesses. And since the wings will also get a little more work done after everything is finished to a tabletop standard, it's perfectly fine to leave that as is. Remember that this is a speed paint. You're not meant to be too careful. You just block those paints in and be done with it. And if you smudge anything, you can always touch things up later. I've got 4 Strions and 2 Voracs. Noble Skin is the base coat for the metals. So using that, it's a fantastic color. Very fond of it. It gets sort of a brown, grayish, dark tone. Very good. Very good for dark skin. Very good for a basis for a rust. As you can see in the back, there's a Dirty Down Rust bottle. I was going to use that, but it did not have the effect I wanted. I think it was a little old or something, so because it didn't work as I wanted it to, as it has done before when I've used it. So I decided against that. Tried it on 1 model and wasn't happy with the result. So instead I decided to use pigments. We'll move on to that later. But here you can see one of the misprinted shields. I could not be bothered to get this fixed. Of course I can contact Steamforged for another one, but it's like, I can't be bothered. I'm already at the painting stage. It'll just be a ridiculously broken shield at this point. Maybe it took a Vorac to the face. Noble Skin, of course, continuing to block all those metals in. And there you have it. All the infantry done. And now we move on to more Tyrian Navy for the infantry. I want the army to have a unified feel, so I'm using Tyrian Navy as the skin for the beasts and also as some of the skirts and cloth for the infantry. And for the characters, I am using Tyrian Navy for the hair, actually. Then we go in with Blood Angels Red again, fixing all those red parts. Want it to be striking. Red and black is, of course, the sort of basis, it feels like, for vampire counts or vampires in general. Red and black. I do love this ghillie just as a little contrast breaker. Break up the paints a little, break up the colors. Very, very fond of this shade of green. Using it as the faces for the muscled heads and for some details on the prophets. And I think, what's her face? Hysene, like her jewelry in the hair is green, and Ashmael's daggers. I decided to do the lances on the Strigon riders in this green as well, just to give them a little paint and pop. Hardened leather for all the other parts. This is one of the best colors or one of the best paints in the entire world. You can use it for leather, you can use it for rust, you can use it for anything. As you can see, I've saved the characters for last. I do them at the same time, both of them, and quite enjoying these extreme sculpts. These aren't the sculpts of Hysene and Ashmael as they come in the box. These are the ones I've printed myself from War Machine 3D. They call them extreme sculpts, but as you can see, I've not used their bases. I've made my own bases because I want castle ruins to be unison against across the whole army. Here I'm using Purple Swarm. It's a very, very vibrant purple color, and I feel like vampire lords are a little, nobility and stuff. You get this purple is a very noble color, so I decided to break some of their cloth and stuff up with purple, and it worked really well. I'm a big fan. As you can see, I'm also using my fingers. Sometimes when I smudge outside, I just wipe it off immediately. Speed paints are very simple to use. Here we go, yeah, ghillie for some of the jewels. Yeah, I like that. Breaks it up a little. Then we go over the skin. I'm going to use more white and just dry brush the skin a little bit just to get it a little brighter than it was. This will matter when the next speed paint comes on top. I really want it super bright. I'm doing the same for the skin on the infantry. They don't have very much skin, so it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. But I still want it to be clear what is skin and what is not. And there we go. Time for some Devout White to do the thorns and claws coming out of the skin of the beasts. So I block these in just a little bit. You don't even have to do all of it, just the tip of them. Sometimes you can see I angle the brush and just do a little line on top. Quite enjoying these venomous claws. They're super cool. They also have poison, which is very good rules-wise. But yeah, it's important to block this in. I didn't care about leaving them when I did the Tyrian Navy. It's quicker to just block them in later. And Battleship Grey for the skin. It will shade this white a little bit, so it'll still look very bright. And Pallid Bone, of course, for all the bone parts that we just blocked in. So... And as you can see again, I'm just slapping this on. It doesn't matter if a little comes out like on the sides on the Tyrian Navy. It doesn't really make a difference because when it dries, you can't see it. So it's fine. Now, Vallejo pigment. This is a rust pigment. We just mix it up with a little water and just dab it on the metal parts. This is a fantastic head, by the way. Love it. And just slap it on, not everywhere, just here and there. Let it dry. Quite fond of this. I did realize when I made this that it dries very red, a lot redder than I had hoped. I should probably mix this with like a dark brown color or maybe even a black color. Maybe some dark wood, perhaps. It would have been better. Because the problem is, and this was a worry from the beginning, using rust metal and red cloth can look a little too similar. So I decided to cover the entire army with this pigment, and then after that I will rework it a little to make it more suitable. And of course the characters get some too. As you can see, I'm just sort of dabbing this on. It's so runny, so I don't want to paint it on. I just dab it on a little, let it dry. Pigments do dry very matte and very like very thick, not thick, but how do you say, very textured. All right, and that's pretty much all of it pigmented up. So moving on to stippling some cold steel from P3. As you can see here on Cibon, I just used a little piece of foam with the tweezers, and I just stipple this on here and there to break up the rust a little, because the rust is a little too red. Really loving that green on the faces of these guys. And also using some of that metal for the green faces on the muzzled heads, so that you can see that while they are green, they're still made of metal. And of course Hyzine. I love this model, she's so cool. Ashmal as well, really cool looking. All right, I think that's all of it, pretty much done. Now we're doing the bases. Turretin Turquoise is a really dark turquoise color, so I liked using that. Here we have it. The entire army is finished to a tabletop standard. You can definitely play this. It's fully painted. All the magnetized parts are painted. The bases are done. You need to paint the base rims, of course. I can see now that this isn't done yet. So, big fan of this, but I was not very happy with the red metal being so red. So let's cover the whole thing in streak and grime. All the metals, I'm just having a quick show here that you can see how I'm doing. I lost my tripod, so sadly I could not use both my hands for this, so I apologize in advance. But basically take a sponge, dip it in white spirits once you've coated everything in streak and grime, and then really squeeze that out. And now, I'm terribly sorry for the quality here using one hand for the camera, but as you can see, I'm just wiping this off. I'm just basically dabbing it on, wiping a little grime off, leaving some metal and rust, and this is the end result. This is how it looks when it's dabbed off, and this is a heck of a difference. This is what I want, dark, gritty, and this is how it looks on a Vorac, dark and gritty, sort of grim dark feel. That's what I want for these vampires. You know, it's metal, it's rusty, it's dirty. That's what I want. But as we said, base rims. Let's do it. I got my tripod back for this one. So as you can see, here are two hands working. So yeah, I had a 24-hour challenge set out for this project. And since I'm a father of two and, you know, time is scarce, I did split that up in several sessions. But I'm 14 hours down right now. So I have another 10 hours if I want to do some touch-ups and highlights. I'll probably do that in the next video. Very happy with the army as it turned out. It's definitely tabletop plus for 14 hours of work, so check it out.